Thank you, Ms. Reed, for that wonderful performance. I'm Jay Dean, and it has been a pleasure of mine to be a member of the Mississippi Musicians Day Committee, along with Senator Lydia Chazanal and Representative Rita Martinson. And having worked in Mississippi in music for the past 27 years at the University of Southern Mississippi and in Natchez Music Festival and here in Jackson with the opera, I've long been a member of that musicians community, and I'm so thrilled with this event and this day and this opportunity. I was invited to be a part of a group and back in October and jumped at the chance to do that. And we've had a number of meetings since then, and I'm have made most of those, and we've done a lot of great work in celebrating musicians here in Mississippi. In terms of music in Mississippi, we know that many of the 22 million visitors to Mississippi come here specifically to explore our musical culture. We also know that in FY 2014, those visitors spent $6.2 billion in the state, and a great deal of those dollars are spent experiencing live music at our great festivals, venues, restaurants, and concert halls. No one understands this better than our Governor, Phil Bryant. Phil Bryant was sworn in as Mississippi's 64th governor on January 10, 2012. Before becoming the state's chief executive, Bryant was lieutenant governor from 2008 to 2011. He also served as state auditor and represented his legislative district in the Mississippi House of Representatives for 5 years. As governor, Phil Bryant has led Mississippi in implementing transformational public education reforms and in building a competitive business climate that attracts major employers like Yokohama Tire Corporation. He is president of the Interstate Oil and Gas Compact Commission and past president of the Southern States Energy Board. Governor Bryant is also an avid outdoorsman and is a longtime member of the National Rifle Association's Institute for Legislative Action. Governor Bryant and his wife, First Lady of Mississippi, Deborah Bryant, have 2 adult children, Katie Bryant Snell and Patrick Bryant, and are active members of the St. Mark's United Methodist Church in Brandon. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Governor Phil Bryant.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jay, and thank you for all that are here today. Thank you, Rita. So good to see you. We're so sorry for the challenges that you have had, but we are so proud of the accomplishments. Rita Martinson is a lady of determination and dedication. She has done so much for the entertainment industry throughout the state of Mississippi and arts, the creative economy. With her partner Lydia Chazanal in the Senate, these 2 ladies have helped bring notoriety to Mississippi along with the great artists that I know they represent. Rita, thank you and God bless you. Well, we're very close to music here in Mississippi. As a young boy, I was very proud when I heard Elvis Presley on the radio. You see, in the early 1960s, there was not always a lot to be proud of here in Mississippi, things to brag about. We had the king of rock and roll. There he was from Tupelo, Mississippi. It reminded people not from Memphis, but from Tupelo. Then as I grew older, we realized that how fortunate we were to have the father of country music, Jimmie Rodgers. A lot of my generation almost passed that by until I heard my father begin to play music on the Victrola that we had, as my grandmother would refer to it as. We just called it the record player. Some of you remember those. And there was a song about All Around the Water Tank. Jim Reeves. And my dad said, "That's great, but you should have heard Jimmie Rodgers do it." Who? Well, he educated me real quick about the father of country music. And then as I became a teenager, I heard Derek and the Dominoes do Down at the Crossroads, and I just thought it was a cool song. Didn't realize he was talking about the Mississippi Delta where I came from. Down at the crossroads, Eric Clapton wrote. And now the impact of that crossroads goes around the world. Last year, as we began to discuss the economic impact of the creative economy, we looked at the 60,000 jobs across the state of Mississippi, direct and indirect, That would be 30 Toyota plants that are involved in the creative economy, 60,000 Mississippians, probably another 60,000 more like me that wish they were involved in the creative economy. You see, it's in our blood, it's in our DNA. Everywhere we go, we have music with us, whether it's on Sunday morning at church, the beautiful music we just heard, or whether it's at a St. Patty's Day parade, a wedding, yes, a funeral. No good funeral ever passes without those wonderful songs. The military men and women I see here today recognizes that every branch of the military has their own song. Many of us have a tear in our eye and a lump in our throat when we hear them, or when we hear anyone sing the Star-Spangled Banner. If you're not moved by that music, well, you have to be, or you would not be among us today. Song, music, entertainment, the creative economy is a part of our very soul, our culture, and it is what helped bring 22 million people to this state. Think about that, a state of 3 million people, and 22 million people came here to see us. And just as importantly, to hear us, to hear those wonderful sounds that we've heard here today and that we're about to hear. Now, Mississippi musicians across this state, songwriters and entertainers have made a quality of life for Mississippi that is unsurpassed by any other state. Now, I know my friend Bill Haslam in Tennessee, we spoke together one time, and I got up and announced that Mississippi was the birthplace of America's music. He took a little exception to that until we went through the list. And he said, I guess Phil's right. They all were born here in Mississippi. And I said, yeah, next year we're going to be the volunteer state. Because we worked so hard at it. So as governor, I get to do a couple of things that's important. Now, I can't play or sing, although I get to try sometimes. I'm not much of a writer, although I write speeches. But I am a fan. Oh, I'm a fan of all types of music, of all of those genres that we grew up with, we live our lives with, that we celebrate with, and that we will go out with. The last thing that most of the folks at our last days will hear is the last song. Now, we've got many years to go, and today is a very special day to recognize not only the past but the future, because you see, entertainment in Mississippi, as I see the great Dorothy Moore there, is just as much about the future as it is the past. Dorothy hadn't quit singing, have you, darling? She hadn't quit entertaining. The artists and musicians of this state will last for generations to come. So we want to proclaim today, because of all the popularity of the blues and gospel music. Southern gospel music happens to be my favorite. It's a little bit of everything, a little bit of jazz, popular rock and roll, and country. And whereas the state of Mississippi has produced more Grammy Award winners per capita than any other state. Should I say that again? More Grammy. And we're up there building that Grammy Museum. Yeah. It'll be California and the Mississippi Delta. What the proper places for them to be. As a predecessor before him, the current crop of Mississippi musicians work daily perfecting their craft. They do. And they do it in some of the nicest venues. Places like the Mississippi Delta and the Gulf Coast. Entertainment venues all across the state. Due to the considerable global influence of Mississippi musicians, we are establishing a celebration called Mississippi Musicians Day. Now, therefore, I, Phil Bryant, Governor of the state of Mississippi, do hereby proclaim March 17, 2015 as Mississippi Musician Day. Let us celebrate. Thank you so much for being here on this beautiful day. Let us keep the music forever in our hearts and in our state. The man I'm about to introduce does that as well as anyone I know. Now, as a young man, I know he hates when I say this, my grandmother loved the Lawrence Welk Show. She just loved it. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and admit we weren't so excited about it because I had never seen Elvis or the Stones or Beatles on Lawrence Welk. But I did like that guy from Mississippi. Man, he could sing. Now, I had heard he had been on a show that was called the Art Linkletter House Party starting in 1967. Gosh, he must have been 13. For 40 years, he was a member of the Lawrence Welk Show. Occasionally, I still catch the Lawrence Welk Show, and I will go ahead and tell you I enjoy it more today than I did in 1969. Somehow I relate to it more. There's a young guy who was born and raised in Tupelo, Mississippi, singing as great as ever. Each time I see guys sing and I enjoy it, I marvel at the ability he has. That great voice that loves to sing about Mississippi and represent Mississippi. He came back in Mississippi in 1990 and went to work for Trent Lott, served him honorably there. In 2005, he performed Let the Eagle Soar from his One Nation Under God CD at the presidential inauguration ceremony in Washington, D.C. I know he wasn't nervous at all before being introduced at the presidential inauguration, and he did a great job. Guy is married to Sarah Sis Lundy, and they live in Jackson. Guy and Sis have 3 children and 4 grandchildren. Ladies and gentlemen, one of our great music ambassadors, Mr. Guy Hovis. Guy, come sing for us.